December 1776. The American Revolution is on life support. What once felt like the birth of a new nation now looks more like the final breath of a failed rebellion. Just 5 months earlier, the Declaration of Independence had been signed. There was celebration, optimism. But reality came crashing in fast. The British military machine was stronger, more organized, and better supplied. The American army was undertrained, underfunded, and unraveling. George Washington had been handed the impossible task of keeping this revolution alive. After a string of brutal defeats in New York, including the disastrous Battle of Long Island, his army was forced to retreat again and again, pushed south across New Jersey by British General Howe's relentless pursuit. By the time Washington's men reached the western banks of the Delaware River, winter had set in, and so had despair. The army had shrunk to barely a few thousand men. Many were sick, many barefoot. Some wrapped their feet in bloody rags to survive the cold. Some didn't survive at all. They were starving, tired, freezing, and not just physically worn out, mentally broken too. It had become common to find soldiers with frostbite, infected wounds, or silent stares that lasted too long. These weren't hardened professionals. These were farmers, blacksmiths, printers, volunteers. Supplies were nearly gone. Food was scarce. Ammunition was limited. Morale was collapsing. And to make matters worse, enlistments were about to expire. Many of these men would be legally allowed to walk away from the army by the end of the month. And honestly, no one would have blamed them. Even Congress, the heart of the revolutionary government, had fled Philadelphia in fear of British occupation. The public had lost confidence. Newspapers openly questioned if the revolution had been a mistake. But not Washington. Washington knew that if he didn't act, and fast, this war would be over. The revolution would die in the snow, and history would forget the names of those who tried to make it real. So he made a choice. One final, desperate gamble. On the night of December 25th, 1776, as snow and sleet fell over the Delaware River, Washington gathered his remaining forces for a surprise attack. The target? A garrison of Hessian mercenaries, German soldiers hired by the British, stationed in the small town of Trenton, New Jersey. The crossing was nightmarish. Boats had to be pushed across a half-frozen river. Thick chunks of ice floated through the current. Winds howled. Visibility was low. Men slipped on wet boards. Some nearly drowned. But they kept going. It wasn't just courage that drove them. It was the knowledge that this was it. One shot to revive a dying cause. It took all night, but by the early morning hours of December 26th, the Continental Army had made it across, cold, wet, exhausted, but ready. Washington led them through the dark toward Trenton, timing the attack just after dawn. The Hessians were completely unprepared. They had celebrated Christmas the night before, assuming the Americans were too weak and disorganized to launch an assault in such conditions. That assumption cost them dearly. In less than an hour, Washington's forces had overrun the town. The Hessians surrendered. Over 900 enemy soldiers were captured. American casualties? Minimal. It was a total victory, and a desperately needed one. But it wasn't just about the battle. It was about what it meant. Word of the success spread quickly. Newspapers that had been writing off the war now praised the boldness of Washington and his troops. Support surged. Enlistments rose. Hope returned. In the days that followed, Washington struck again, winning battles at Assunpink Creek and Princeton, forcing the British to retreat from much of New Jersey. It was a sudden reversal of momentum, And it all started with that frozen crossing on Christmas night. The winter of 1776 was more than just a chapter in a history book. It was a turning point in human determination, a moment where everything seemed lost. And yet, it wasn't. George Washington didn't just survive the winter. He led his army through it and proved that the Revolution was still alive. In those dark weeks, when frostbite claimed feet and hunger hollowed bellies, the idea of American freedom was almost buried. But on the icy banks of the Delaware, it was pulled back from the edge. And that's how, in the dead of winter, a nation began to rise. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves history. This was just one moment that changed everything. There are more to come.